Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Saahil Murali Menghani. In episode 4 of Checks and Balance, we are going to focus on the movie The Kashmir Files. But before we begin fact-checking some of the claims that have been made over the last few days, it's important to state a few points so that you get the context right. Is this fact check about whether the forced exile of Kashmiri Pandits was a crime or not? No. Is this fact check going to question the veracity of the forced exodus of the Pandits or its genocidal implications? No. Is this fact check going to get into numbers? No. Each life lost is important. No figure can effectively gauge the pain inflicted on Kashmiri Pandits, on the thousands of families who felt compelled overnight to leave their homes and permanently uprooted from the land that was theirs. Be it the anti-Sikh massacre of 1984 or anti-Muslim riots of Gujarat 2002 or Kashmir 1990, to mention the three of the biggest human tragedies India has seen in recent decades, the least the victims deserve is acknowledgement of the injustice meted out to them. We cannot have different definitions and yardsticks. You cannot agree with anyone who asks you to choose between Delhi 1984 and Gujarat 2002 and Kashmir 1990, or tells you that one was less wrong than the other. In fact, there is one thing common in the victims of all these three human tragedies. They were abandoned by their own government then and continue to be denied justice even till now. So if not all of that, then what is our fact check going to be focusing on? It's going to focus entirely on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's own track record of the last 8 years, the BJP's role over the last 30 years, and does the party's locus standi to claim the moral high ground on the question of Kashmiri Pandits. Why the BJP, you might ask? Well, the reason is that the party, which has been in power for several years now, has left no stone unturned to milk the Kashmir Files movie for its own political benefits. In fact, I'll now be using Prime Minister Narendra Modi's own words to describe this fact check in exactly one line.
मेरा विषय कोई फिल्म नहीं है. मेरा विषय है कि जो सत्य है उसको सही स्वरूप में देश के सामने लाना देश के भलाई के लिए होता है.
I've taken a note of that, Prime Minister. We are on the same page. Before we begin fact checking, let's listen in to his full remarks.
इन दिनों आपने देखा होगा कश्मीर फाइल फिल्म की चर्चा चल रही है. कोई सत्य उजागर करने का साहस करे, उसको जो सत्य लगा उसने प्रस्तुत करने की कोशिश की, लेकिन उस सत्य को न समझने की तैयारी न स्वीकारने की तैयारी है. उसके कई पहलू हो सकते हैं. किसी को एक चीज नजर आती है, किसी को दूसरी नजर आएगी. जिनको लगता है कि ये फिल्म ठीक नहीं होगी अपनी दूसरी फिल्म बनाए, कौन मना करता है. लेकिन उनको हैरानी हो रही है कि जिस सत्य को इतने सालों तक दबा करके रखा, उसको तथ्यों के आधार पर जब बाहर लाया जा रहा है और कोई मेहनत करके ला रहा है, तो उसको पूरी कोशिश में लग गई है. पूरी कोशिश.
There is the Prime Minister batting for freedom of expression, saying all are free to make their own films. He also expressed shock at alleged attempts to suppress a film. So I think the first thing to fact check here is the track record of the government and of Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself when it comes to the freedom of expression of filmmakers who try to make movies that go against the official view on different subjects. And the track record is not a good one, people. For example, filmmaker O'Neill tells me that he has been trying to make a movie on the real life story of a gay major in the Indian Army who had to quit because it became difficult for him to stay on. O'Neill tells me that just this year, in 2022, the Ministry of Defense has refused to give his script a no objection certificate. He says that his movie is based on the hard-hitting reality of discrimination that the LGBTQ community has faced. The Prime Minister is batting for freedom of expression, and he's saying that everyone is free to make a movie. What's your recent experience been like with his government? Uh, is the Prime Minister being true,
You know,
being honest
yeah,
when he says every film is free, everyone is free to make a film?
I think it's kind of ironical. Well, I really welcome when a statement like this is made that everyone is free to make the kind of film they want to if it's based on reality. Because what is constantly being also talked about is that it's something which was real and it's important. And I just feel it's ironical because recently, when I was trying to make my film We Are, and one of the stories in the film is also based on reality. It was inspired by a army major who came out in 2020 as gay on a certain television channel, and it's available in public domain. And when I was making this film, I had to apply to the Ministry of Defense for an NOC, and I was, without any detailed uh, explanation, I was just told that the content of the film cannot be given an NOC, and which was very, very sad because I believe that my film is only talking about what is wrong. Earlier you could make a film and have a discourse. Here, I'm not even being allowed to make the film, and that is extremely problematic, I feel, and especially ironical now when I see that everyone is talking about the freedom to express what is truth, and I'm wondering, is my truth the truth of the queer community, the discrimination that we have suffered for centuries, of is that less important?
Guidelines on the website of Jammu and Kashmir Film Cell says, and I quote, a filmmaker will have to submit a detailed script and synopsis. The script will be evaluated by an expert from a panel constituted by the Union Territory of the Jammu and Kashmir Film Cell. In exceptional cases, a director may need to show the completed film to a representative of the film cell before it releases anywhere in India or anywhere in the world to quote unquote ensure that the film has been shot in accordance with the evaluated script and that it contains nothing objectionable from the point of view of presentation of a correct and balanced perspective on the topic. Your comments
I
as a
feel
filmmaker.
that, I suppose this very, thing just, proves that whatever is being spoken about the freedom of expression, about being able to tell stories in the most truthful form, it defeats it. It defeats that, despite the country having a film certification board, that every day there are newer bodies coming up. I mean, why should, for example, the defense ministry be looking at scripts? There is a film certification board, which is supposed to be able to analyze what is okay or not. And now suddenly you'll have various states also doing it. I think it's ridiculous. It is undemocratic, and it's curtailing the rights of a filmmaker. Especially, but I feel the entire process right now is becoming more and more how to only have narratives that are deemed favorable to the state.
And there is more. Under Narendra Modi's tenure as Gujarat's chief minister, two films made on the Gujarat riots, Rahul Dolakia's Parzania and Firaaq by Nandita Das, were not allowed to be screened in the state. Both the films had been cleared by the Censor Board, yet the cinema hall owners refused to screen the film because they were scared to do so. At that time, it was reported that cinema hall owners had said that they would only release Parzania if they received approval from Bajrang Dal's Babu Bajrangi. As threats held cinema hall owners hostage, Narendra Modi, the then Gujarat Chief Minister, looked the other way. Coincidentally, On-Air also made a movie on the subject of Kashmiri Pandits. The film, which is called I Am, in fact went on to win a national award in the year 2011. Interestingly, the Congress-led UPA government was in power then. On-Air tells me that he didn't receive any compliments or endorsements from any of the top-level BJP functionaries or any of its chief ministers, including Narendra Modi. No BJP-run state government announced any tax relief to the film, a benefit that BJP governments have extended to the Kashmir Files in state after state. So is the BJP's over-the-top support to the Kashmir Files more about building a particular narrative and not about supporting Kashmiri Pandits? The BJP government, several BJP governments in state after state have gone out of their way to dole out tax exemptions to Kashmir Files. The PM himself is batting for the movie. When your movie released in the year 2011, there were BJP governments in various states, including the state of Gujarat, which was headed by our current Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. Did any BJP government, and specifically the Gujarat government, give out any tax exemption to your movie?
Honestly speaking, no government. I mean, neither did the BJP government nor any other government give any tax exemptions or spoke about the film. In terms of government support, absolutely zero.
Did any top BJP functionary, any BJP chief minister, in particular the then Gujarat Chief Minister Narendra Modi, issue any public statement in favor of your movie? Because now the chief ministers are putting out tweets endorsing Kashmir Files.
No, absolutely zero support.
Did they organize any special screenings? Did any political party, but
No.
Specifically the BJP, did they organize any special screenings?
No.
All right. So I guess that answers the question, what is the ruling party really interested in then? How very unfortunate, and it doesn't end there. In the year 2015, Pankaj Butalia's documentary on Kashmir violence was stalled by the Central Board of Film Certification. He then had to move the High Court, which ultimately allowed his documentary without a single cut. In the year 2019, Ashwin Kumar's film No Fathers in Kashmir was passed by the BJP's appointees at the Censor Board after major cuts. To quote Ashwin Kumar, to quote the filmmaker himself, his film was mutilated by the Censor Board. Compare that to the tender treatment, soft treatment that the Kashmir Files has got. It's been passed with minimal and minor cuts. Another important point to mention here is that the Kashmir Files director, Vivek Agnihotri, is one of the 12 members of India's Censor Board. He was made a member in the year 2017, and it was under his watch that Ashwin Kumar's film on Kashmir was mutilated. So when Prime Minister Narendra Modi says others are free to make their films on Kashmir, he conveniently forgot to add that they will have to first satisfy Vivek Agnihotri. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also said that the truth shown in the Kashmir Files was hidden for several years and that the movie has brought it out now. That's incorrect. It at best shows Prime Minister Narendra Modi's own ignorance or his attentional attempt to paint a false picture. There is a huge body of work on the matter. In our examination, we found over a dozen films, documentaries made on the subject, a majority of them by Kashmiri Pandits themselves. These include Rakesh and Rohit Bhatt's The Need, Exodus and Exile, Deepti Bhatnagar starrer, The Diary of a Kashmiri Pandit, On-Air's I Am, The Lost Paradise, Ashok Pandit's Sheen, Shikara, and Sanjay Amar's 19th January. There is also Rakesh Jala's 23 Winters, Ajay Raina's The Tree They Had Planted Has Now Grown, Siddharth Gigu's The Last Day, Ashok Pandit's And the World Remains Silent, and Madhuka Jalali's Ghar Ka Pata, which in fact has been featured at several top national and international film festivals and has also grabbed a few international awards. Apart from that, there are books published by top publishers written by Kashmiri Pandits themselves. How is it that someone so concerned about the cause of Kashmiri Pandits has not read or heard about Rahul Panditar's Our Moon Has Blood Clots or Siddharth Gigu's A Long Dream of Home? Is the PM ignorant about them? Or did he intentionally choose to ignore their existence because they didn't suit his political objectives? In fact, one of those movies, The Lost Paradise, was even uploaded by Bharatiya Janata Party's official YouTube channel in the year 2013 because it featured some BJP figures. Perhaps it missed Prime Minister Narendra Modi's attention when he said that the truth that was hidden for several years has been brought out now by the Kashmir Files. In this episode of Checks and Balance, we have deliberately kept away from fact-checking the contents of the Kashmir Files because it's already been done by others like the Srinagar-based Kashmiri Pandit Sanjay Tiku, the historian Ashok Kumar Pandey, and the journalist Umilesh, and they've done a fine job and there is no need to repeat that. That is why we decided to focus entirely on the ruling party's decision to promote the Kashmir Files and also ask questions about the professed role of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the BJP. I've already shown you how their claims to be encouraging filmmakers to make movies to depict what Narendra Modi says, the many aspects of truth and different views, is a blatant untruth. But what about BJP's claim to have done more than any other party to protect Kashmiri Pandits and help them return to their homeland? Let's take a quick look. Let's begin with 1990 when the Kashmiri Pandit exodus took place. At that point of time, it was VP Singh's government in power at the center and it was backed by the BJP. Even the state was under center's governor's rule. Late Jagmohan was the governor then. He later went on to become a minister in Atal Bihari Vajpayee's government. In fact, not just that, the BJP did exit the VP Singh government later on. But the point to be highlighted is it did not do so on the issue of Kashmiri Pandits, but on the issue of Ram Temple. The BJP government in fact took no steps to rehabilitate, to resettle Kashmiri Pandits in the successive Vajpayee governments between 1998 and 2004. Since 1990, Congress has ruled India for 3 terms. The BJP is in its 4th term. Over the last 32 years, the BJP has been part of a government at the center for roughly about 15 years. In the 8 years between 2014 and 2022, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has not taken any direct concrete steps to rehabilitate Kashmiri Pandits. For a party that mentioned Kashmiri Pandit rehabilitation as one of its top agenda in its 2014 manifesto, to have been unable to do much in 8 years speaks volumes about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's lack of commitment and also that of his party to the cause of Kashmiri Pandits. In fact, a glaring example of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and BJP's lack of commitment to the cause of Kashmiri Pandits is the fact that it formed government in the state of Jammu and Kashmir in the year 2015 with Mufti Muhammad, the same man who was India's Home Minister in the year 1990 when the Kashmiri Pandit exodus took place. Prime Minister Narendra Modi especially cannot be excused for not rehabilitating Kashmiri Pandits, and I'll explain you why. Apart from his government at the center for the last 8 years, his party has been in charge of the state of Jammu and Kashmir either through direct power or through governor's rule for over seven of the last 8 years that he has been the prime minister. So no excuse of not having a double engine ki sarkar, at least here. Even when the BJP did break its alliance with the PDP in the year 2018, it gave a whole list of reasons for that breakup. None of those reasons were about the issue of Kashmiri Pandits. One wonders, where did the political ideological commitment go at that point of time? Even if you go by the promise of providing over 6,000 transit accommodations for 6,000 Kashmir migrants, employees approved in the year 2015, only 304 were completed by December 2021 if you go by the Parliamentary Standing Committee report on Home Affairs. Or even in March this year, the Modi government said on record in the Parliament that only 1,025 of those 6,000 units stand completed or substantially completed, 1/6. While the Modi government has been quick to accord great security to filmmaker, the Kashmir Files director Vivek Agnihotri, citing threats to his life, it has done nothing to put in safety mechanisms for Kashmiri Pandits. Just last year, under BJP's rule, Kashmiri Pandits, migrants who were working as employees in the state, had to flee from Kashmir after targeted killings of minorities under BJP's rule, both at the center and in the state. So much for the claims that the Prime Minister and his party keep making about Kashmir and Kashmiri Pandits. Now, with all of those facts that we have put forward in front of you, we have come to the end of this episode of Checks and Balance. But we will continue to put checks on half-truths and false claims by those in power. Help us spread this around to contain the massive disinformation campaign. I'll see you soon in another episode. Till then, it's a goodbye from me. Thank you so much for watching.
To receive instant updates on all videos from The Wire, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Pay to support independent journalism. Click the link in the description and choose the amount you want to pay.